I am thrilled by how much work I have to do. Spent 3 months with my dad. An amazing, awesome experience, and so much material, so much to think about, understand, edit. I mean, present. Um, so I've just been naming the files, and I recorded a video. I was on the phone with him earlier, and he brought up a conversation that we had that was recorded on our trip. So look at me drumming up interest by talking about some of the stuff, and you guys can be like, "Oh man, I can't wait till those videos of that road trip from Warsaw to Madrid and that those father and son interactions. Can't wait for that. I'm gonna subscribe and and watch them. All right, so um, consciousness was something that came up because, as you know, if you watch these videos and if you're following, you probably don't exist yet, but maybe it's 2025. Hey, look, it's literally 2025 now. Um, then you know that we've cracked the mind. We've realized some important illusions of the mind. One of them, being reason. Well, we call them the Warsaw illusions, actually, don't we? Did that catch on? And so the what are the Warsaw illusions? Will, rational operator, row, single operator, single observer. Will, rational operator, single observer. So. And since I was in Warsaw when I came up with it, the Warsaw illusions. And consciousness is a word that we use for the when outputting our single operator illusion, our reasonable operator illusion. It's just another word for soul or spirit or so on. Consciousness exists in some regard. Like it's a word that we can assign to maybe experience. The feeling of unity in our experience. Consciousness, therefore, might be an illusion, but that illusion, it's a real brain thing that's happening. And that brain thing that's happening doesn't match reality because there's not a single entity here. Just a bunch of neurons like that. Um, but shit, I lost my train of thought. So I was thinking about my dad. Um, but part of these neurons, they're all like, "Hey, don't we feel like we finished each other's sentences? Like we're all just one thing. We're not a whole bunch of billions of neurons. Because we can't really see in here. We don't really know that we're neurons. We don't. Each neuron doesn't actually have a mind itself, or it can have a sense of self, and so on. So we all together, all these neurons are constructing this sense of self, this single thing. Um, so whether you call it a spirit, a soul, you know, whatever, or the most educated thing to call it would be the consciousness. Um, and so my dad talks about consciousness sort of like this, like soul, like it's this really reasonable, like this thing that is able, like we can consciously then do this. Oh, we can know that we have this mechanism and then like consciously override it or consciously do otherwise. Like, no, like there would have to be another mechanism, another brain mechanism, another set of neurons that lead to that other thing. And knowing about that other possibility, so having a representation of that, so some neurons in knowledge, doesn't mean that those are neurons that are part of the behavioral output. So, for instance, one thing that we talked about was social proof. And he keeps calling it social pressure because, you need a more value neutral term, which is social proof. We have a mechanism where if we see a bunch of people doing a thing, there's the mechanism that goes, okay, that's a good thing. And if we see someone doing something that we don't usually see people do, we have a mechanism that goes, okay, that they're bad. Okay, that is one of our mechanisms. Now, knowing that that exists does that not mean that then that mechanism is going to be interrupted? That there will be a competing mechanism. We are not integrated, so the knowledge can exist in one part of the system without being consulted when we are forming the judgment. Um, and so consciousness is this like kind of guy running around the brain, going, "Oh, that's not working. All right, hold on, let me do this instead, so this will be the behavioral output. Oh, I'm gonna," like he's like contorting himself to like, patch the thing, and he's like running around the brain like patching it and reorganizing stuff. There's no engineer in the brain, there's no judge in the brain, there's no this single magical soul. We don't have a soul. So um all right. Well, anyway, let me just tell you what I said. All right. So he sent me an article. Understanding consciousness goes beyond exploring brain chemistry. I mean, this is just, yeah. No, what does that actually mean? And yes, in the sense that, because it means really, I mean, not what the article means, but what it could, I guess what I'm saying is what it could mean beyond exploring brain chemistry is that, yeah, it's true. Oh yeah, that's what I'm explaining. I'm explaining my yes. It's true that we won't find consciousness in the brain. It's more in our definitions, in the questions, the way we are packaging this thing called consciousness that we're calling consciousness. What's inside this bag that we've labeled consciousness? That's the stuff we got to work on. We're not going to find this magical consciousness. Uh, that is impossible for machines to have, that oh, do other animals have it, oh, do plants have it, whatever, that thing you're talking about, that doesn't exist. And so if you can look at the brain chemistry all you want, you're not going to find something to some reality to that illusion you have of this conscious force, this single self, this. Okay. So, Dad does a great job. He says very clearly what he thinks. I think you are wrong to argue there is no such thing as consciousness. Consciousness is a word we use to describe the awareness that I am typing this. Right? Cool. And he would do this thing all the time. He would say something, and he would anticipate that I would negate it, I guess. He would say, we have to use words. Sometimes people dismiss semantics. You understand, words and their references, that does matter, right? Sometimes, right? I mean, obviously there are times when I guess it doesn't matter, but almost every time I hear people say that's just semantics. Now, okay, if you're saying that's just semantics, I think the time when it's valid is when you've got two different words referring to the same thing. Okay. And then someone is saying X is true and you're saying Y is true. Okay, you got a semantic issue here. You think you're disagreeing, but it's actually just the indicators, the references, not the referent, that is different. So it's just a semantic issue, I guess. But a lot of times, sort of, those references matter. And if you say this, and it seems to refer to this for part of what you're saying, but then you're also referring to this other thing, oh, there might be an issue there, and we need to talk about these references. Okay. Um, okay, so consciousness is a word we use to describe the awareness that I am typing this. Okay. So he has an image in his mind. I'm typing this. There's a continuity of time there. Like there is not a sense of a change of perspective between starting it and finishing it. There is a memory, a working memory of the last words typed. So there's no feeling of, whoa, I just arrived here. Um, there is a sense of familiarity with the motivation or with whatever prompted this thing. And so all of those things, uh, okay, you can group a lot of those things together and say, so what we call consciousness is when you've got those different links and you've got a bunch of them together. Got a link between the previous moment and the present moment, or link between the word being typed and its meaning, a link between the action and an image, Okay. So you got all this cross modality stuff. Okay. And then we can draw a little circle around that awareness and say that's consciousness. Okay. Yes. And if you use it that way, fine. Consciousness is the awareness of behavior, whatever awareness means. Because haven't we just, and isn't consciousness just awareness? Like mental awareness? I don't know how much we've advanced. But that works. Um, you know, what is awareness? But that's okay. Consciousness is an observing system slash force slash whatever. Okay. The two things that I don't think are justified to claim are one, consciousness is a single observer. Um, so maybe not a single observing force. There may be a variety of different mechanisms responding to different mental events slash outputs. In 24 hours, we could maybe describe some number of experiences, consciousnesses, paradigms. Uh, these neurons are responding to this, me talking to you, and there's this feeling of observing myself, and then at another point it's these neurons, which is why I have something, we'll have. No, I'm not gonna. I'm just what I was about to say. I think was gonna be wrong. It didn't sing. Two, consciousness is an agent, reminding you that these are two things that I don't think are justified to claim. Consciousness is an agent. I don't know of a reason to buy into the illusion that we can decide or behave or perceive or judge consciously, or that we can change our brains through some integrated conscious force. I do, however, understand really well the illusion of the soul slash conscious agent slash etc. The brain packages things. It's like God, except when I didn't bring up God here, and I ended up doing Poseidon because one time when I said it's like God, we put the mechanics of the universe, the origins of the universe, the values that we experience mentally, we put all that together. Add some intentionality, add some anticipation and some knowledge, and then we put a circle around all that stuff and call it God. I think we do the same thing with consciousness. That's just what the brain does. The brain has things, and it tries to not have too many bags in the house, right? So it's got a bag, and then it goes, oh, okay, so that's conscious. I don't know why not, and it works well enough. Okay, I mean, it's wrong, but for day to day life, it doesn't work well enough actually, because then you start thinking that other people can like consciously decide to do blank, as though they don't need to actually install the biological mechanisms over time and with practice. They can consciously decide to do that blank, and then we have this illusion we can consciously like not be racist. We could look at two people and go, okay, I'm not gonna be racist. Let me now consciously and like reasonably observe these two people. That doesn't exist, and so it's terrible. But people are still surviving and reproducing, so it works well enough. All right, and then I said to him, after I said the two claims that I don't think are justified, single observer, eight, and operator. Um, Also, if you're honest, none of your personal experience justifies the way you talk about consciousness as some single intelligent force that can exert control over the parentheses other brain mechanisms. Why don't you consciously decide to eat differently? Consciously decide to work on blank? Consciously decide to get over blank? How come you and I, two intelligent and moral people, have the same flaws we knowingly had 20 years ago? So when I respond to your use of the word consciousness, I'm responding to your attributions of things to consciousness that I don't think that word can meaningfully take. I wrote meaningful, but can meaningfully take. But these are attributes we are programmed to perceive and attribute. Um, and that's what's so funny. I would have the same illusion if I didn't have ADHD. I don't understand how a person can have ADHD and believe in this single operator. I mean, I had teachers who were going, yeah, but then you have to like overcome that and like, decide to like do your homework. What? Who do you think is in here? I'm just a bunch of neurons and they're not doing the homework. And maybe if it's an architecture thing, I can rearrange them a little bit. But if it's a chemical thing, if it's a receptor thing, I have no. There's no. Otherwise, I would. There's no just like backup like human mind that can with all the right settings that can just come in and take over. What do you? So I don't understand how anybody with ADHD can maintain. I mean, the things that society asks you for, that neurotypical people that they can do so easily. How have you not lost your mind wondering why you haven't been able to just consciously do that? Because they all think that they're like consciously deciding to, oh, I'm going to go to work because I know it's hard, but I still got to do it, as though it's not brain mechanisms leading that, producing that action. That oh yeah, maybe it hurts here. My heart's telling me no, my brain's telling me I should, and then I'm the one. This magical thing somewhere between them is getting up. What are you talking about? So, but they can tell themselves because they keep getting up in the morning, they keep going to their job, doing it, keeping the consciously organizing the task and consciously resisting impulses and all that stuff. My dad doesn't even take medicine. Can't even consciously decide to do that. So I don't know what in his experience is supporting this notion that he like I'm just saying I get how people who are fitness freaks and just always they're working out, or I already said fitness freaks, but they got their job, they're doing well, they're being promoted, they're doing everything that the people are supposed to do in this, that the West asks of people, that our culture asks of people in this time. Okay, them, I understand how they don't realize how it's just the sum of mechanisms that's producing all that. How they want to pat themselves on the back, talk about how they're all, oh, okay, they consciously decide and all that. Okay. But if you've experienced addiction, if you have ADHD, if you have depression, and everybody's like, okay, yeah, go for a run. If you, I mean, honestly, if you have any intelligence at all, if you've ever been drunk, I didn't scratch the last line. So I don't know how he maintains it. Um. Anyway, then my last message was, if I say there's no such thing as consciousness, it's like I'm saying there's no such thing as Poseidon. Because I tried to say it another way, but I couldn't without doing God, so I went with Poseidon. Is there rain? Yes. Are there storms? Yes. Are there forces that beget the rains? Yes. Is there an intelligent single force at the rains? No. So when I say consciousness doesn't exist, I'm pointing at that bag of stuff. You have all that stuff: single operator, single observer, reasonable, intelligent, integrated with the all the other mechanisms. All that stuff is in your bag. I'm like, oh no. Take all of that out and just put the sense of familiarity with surroundings plus cross modality of senses plus and time moments, so the being linked to different moments. Plus, we're mixing, we'll call the illusion of the unity of all of that. Now you've got consciousness. Then again, who am I to think I've figured out consciousness? Oh boy. Yeah, this article, the Scientific American article, Christoph Koch had to say, oh, he thought we had have consciousness figured out by now. We don't. I think we do. I think y'all are just looking for something that you made up. Can I see this thing? Yes. Can I talk about this image? Can this be represented in my mind and be connected to words? And can I feel familiarity between all of those things? Yes. Does the word "I" make sense to me? Feel right to me? Yes. It's wrong. I swear I'm gonna figure out a way to stop saying "I." But for now, yes, yes. All us up here, we all kind of see ourselves as one thing. There's kind of one memory bank. There isn't in reality, but it feels that way. Actually, you have amygdala lying down a memory track, and you got the hippocampus lying down a memory track in certain, very emotional, traumatic. So you've got literally two memories in the brain, two these sort of things. Okay, um, and then all right, that probably needs explaining, huh? But yeah, and then whichever one just gets consulted at a given moment. So if you're in another scary situation, it might be the amygdala memory that gets consulted. And that's no, but then I got to relate this back to your experience, to your consciousness, to the things that. What do I mean by that? To the things, the images that are coming into your mind now, the feelings that are coming into your mind now, and the words that are coming into your mind now. That's what I mean by that. So that's what's in that bag consciousness. It's a whole bunch of different stuff that feels connected. Because the neurons are connected. So, but it's not one thing though. And there's a lot of competition. There's parts of you that don't know about other parts of you. It's all that's an illusion. All right. Yeah. I mean, consciousness. We've. I mean, what do you want? You know, all this stuff that like you're looking for, like a thing that can like consciously blah blah. That's an illusion, bro. There's I read the chapter "The Wizard of I" for you from This Explains Everything, bruh. The Wizard of I being the word perfect. Flip twice and got to it. That's wonderful. Maybe I've opened it a lot in the past. Wonderful. Consciousness is the fusion of immediate stimuli with memory that combines the simultaneous feeling of being both the observer and the observed into a smooth, enveloping flow of time that is neither truly the past nor the present, but somehow inexplicably each of them. Yo, me and Smallberg are on the same page, bro, and this was back in 2013. Our subjective sense of time does not correspond to reality. And it talks about this awesome thing about eye movements and how when you move your eyes, there's during the actual movement process, your eye itself is blocking sending messages into the brain, into you, into the rest of you. So there's no processing here. So there's no connection, no consciousness here. Okay, there's no processing here. That gets sent in here, and that's where the processing. This is where the consciousness is, the illusion of. Anyway, so it blocks out this information, and like fills in the gaps with what you would expect to see or what you're just looking at, and then it just gives you this sense. Look, I wrote here, consciousness is an illusion, next to the title. Um, Consciousness, like a former president, has to come up with an accounting for the erased period as your eye was moving. Evolution provided a lot of time to work out the bugs in this deception. Um, Instead of trying to hide the existence of the tape, sorry, because I skipped a part with the reference to like Watergate and stuff. Anyway, um, instead of hiding the existence of like there's evidence of tampering or whatever, I don't know, consciousness came up with a far cleverer trick of obscuring the deletion. It does this by falsifying the time, backdating those necessary moments so that there is no appearance of any gap. Now here, when he talks about consciousness as an operator, he is speaking totally metaphorically, pretty sure. And so what he's saying is, hey, let's include in those different cross modalities and all that stuff that we put in our consciousness bag. Let's also include the system in the brain that sort of falsifies time um, during perception or something. Or the system in the brain that makes sure image A and image B don't feel like they are separated. So, which could actually just be the absence of a system, by the way. It could just be that, if I see a thing and 10 minutes later see another thing, the only reason I know that time is between is because there was a mechanism by which there was a mechanism experiencing and engaging with that time in between, and then a memory of that time, right? If you just delete those things, then A and B follows immediately after. So, but anyway, that mechanism in the brain, we can include that in our bag. Um, we can include in our bag the absence of um, keeping the camera rolling during dead time. I don't know. This illusion of visual continuity from inference and extrapolation reveals an innate vulnerability in the brain's software that any good hacker can exploit. Magicians, card sharks, three-card Monty hustlers have made a nice living working this perceptual flaw. In a comic routine, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Um, Also, experiments just show that any moment where you would have thought you were like conscious and like engaged with the thing, that you were not. Um, that we will consciously like say, yes, I know how this thing works. And then someone will ask, how does that thing work? Oh, I don't know. So what happened? I thought you were consciously like saying you knew what was in here and you knew how the thing worked and you were there and you knew what you were saying and stuff. No, it was just mechanisms, bro. So there you go. Let's consider consciousness cracked unless you can tell me some feature of consciousness that and you have to justify why it belongs in the consciousness bag, why it deserves the consciousness reference. Um, um, but I think it's like Smallberg said. It's just a fusion of a bunch of stuff: familiarity, links, memory, continuity, unity. This not even actual unity, right? When I'm looking around, there's not actual unity, right? There's literally missing time. I'm looking at this. I look over there. I didn't see anything in between. Well, sort of. I did there because I think I moved slowly, but or actually maybe I bloody didn't. Actually, it probably was just extrapolation. So so like me looking at you, like I'm not like conscious of you. It's just there's a representation being created of some visual input. It might be wrong. It might be right. I don't know.